Hi, it's me. There's a lot of talk about the ego these days, and a lot of the time it's gotten a really bad reputation, and sometimes deservedly so. But in the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you what I think are the most important practical things that the ego actually does in your life, and how you can make friends out of those things instead of enemies. First of all, please understand that your ego is not a villain. It's not a bad thing, even though it can definitely cause bad experiences for you if you don't know how it really works. The ego is not a concrete entity, but rather a function of the mind. It's a set of thoughts that create our sense of ourselves. Much like time, it exists as a concept we depend on but can't really physically grasp. Our ego shapes how we perceive ourselves and influences our decisions, often without our conscious awareness. However, by shining the light of awareness on our unconscious thoughts, we can take back control of our lives, distinguishing between helpful and harmful thought patterns. This journey of self-awareness leads us to discover our true self, the eternal witness beyond the mind and body. The ego is more something that mind does than something that it is. It's just a convenient way of speaking about our sense of self, much like time. We talk about yesterday and tomorrow, but they're not really tangible things we can hold in our hands. Well, similarly, the ego is not an object, but rather a collection of thoughts about who we believe we are. The important misconception to let go of is that you are your ego, because you're not, although it often may seem like you are. Think of it this way. We rely on time to structure our lives, calendars, appointments, schedules, all that. But it's still just a construct, a convenient idea. The same goes for ego. We rely on it to navigate life, to tell us who we are and what we can and cannot do. But when we don't examine it carefully, if we're not paying close attention, it can lead us astray. The easiest way to understand the ego is to recognize it as the voice in our heads that refers to us as individuals. Every time you think, I am this, or I am that, or I'm good at this or that, or even something as simple as, hey, I'm surfing. Well, that's your ego at work. Just like the unconscious mind, whose presence we know about, but can't always easily pinpoint, the ego operates beneath the surface of our awareness. It influences our actions, thoughts, and reactions in ways we don't always consciously choose. Now that is what can be a problem. Our unconscious mind plays a powerful role in shaping our lives. When we sleep, where do we go? When we dream, who creates those experiences? Many of our thoughts, desires, and fears operate outside of conscious awareness, yet they still influence our actions and even our lives. So this is why habits and addictions can have such serious consequences. Even when we consciously decide to change, something deeper, something unconscious, can resist, and very strongly. That's where the ego and the unconscious mind intersect. Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychiatrist, captured this perfectly when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." If you feel like life is something that's just happening to you. Consider the possibility that unconscious thoughts are running the show. But if you become aware of these hidden influences, you regain the power to choose. Ego thoughts exist both in our conscious and unconscious mind. Some thoughts serve us while others deceive us, sometimes even harming us. The trickiest part? The ego often feels like our own voice. It sounds as if it is us, making it difficult to question its accuracy. At times, the ego seems to have a mind of its own. It can work in our favor, but just as often, it can lead us to self-doubt, fear, or impulsive decisions. Yet despite how it seems, the ego is not an independent entity. It's just thoughts. And they only have the power we grant them, whether we know that's what we're doing or not. If you are not your ego, then who is? What is that that's outside of that, that's listening to it? This is the spiritual question at the heart of self-awareness. There is a deeper, truer you that exists beyond thoughts, beyond emotions, beyond even your brain or body. The real you is not your body. One day, your body will stop functioning. It will fade. The real you is also not your mind. Your thoughts and memories will also eventually disappear forever. But the true you does not die. The true you is the silent witness, the observer of your life, your thoughts, your sensations, your emotions. This self is eternal, untouched by time, decay, or suffering. It is pure awareness. So back to the ego. In our material lives, the first step in mastering the ego is paying attention to what it's saying. The ego will continue to generate thoughts, some helpful, some harmful, but if you shine the light of awareness, the light that comes from that eternal part of you, who you really are, onto those thoughts, you gain an important power, the power to choose. You see, the ego doesn't know what's best for you. In fact, it doesn't really know anything. It simply talks. It simply takes messages from your life experience and then repeats them back to you. Some of its messages are wise, others are destructive. Either way, for some reason, they embed themselves into your consciousness. They take root. The key is to recognize that you, the true you, can be the one who decides which thoughts take root and which can just be dug up and tossed away. Think of your mind like a garden. Whatever you focus on grows. If you tend to positive, life-affirming thoughts, they will flourish. If you neglect your garden's harmful, fear-driven thoughts, they will wither. But first, you need to see what's growing in your mental garden. Imagine trying to take care of plants in complete darkness. Well, that's how the ego operates, hidden, unseen. Awareness is the sunlight that illuminates the landscape of your mind. But here's the secret. You have that ultimate tool, awareness. When you watch your ego, instead of just blindly following it, it loses its grip on you. And in that space of awareness, you reclaim the power to consciously shape your life. Here are 3 simple, but not necessarily easy, practices you can do to make sure your ego is operating in daylight and under your observation and control, and not the other way around. 1, your ego thoughts operate largely in the dark, where you are unaware of them. But other people don't have the same darkness that you do. We each have different blind spots. So have the courage and the humility to ask others what they think about you. Make sure they're good friends and not spouses or close relatives, because their objectivity might be questionable through no fault of their own. They're just too close to you to see the forest for the trees. But other people who know you fairly well, they can be more objective. Ask them what areas of your personality they would like to see improved. Take your time. You may not get the best answers right away. Probe a little. Promise them you will try not to get defensive or judge them. So make sure you don't. You're just curious and you respect their opinion. That's it. Number 2, be mindful to remain in the present moment as often as you can. If you find yourself triggered about something from the past or worrying about something that may be in your future, your ego may well be stirring up your mental pot. Let it go for the time being and bring yourself back to what's before you right now. You can always come back to it later if it becomes important. But try to live in the now, the sacred now. Be present and really listen to people and situations that are right in front of you. Because when you do that, your ego tends to get pretty quiet. Number 3, employ your inner witness. Observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. Now, this may be tricky to do at first, but be patient. Remind yourself that nobody's perfect and that life is about practice, not perfection. This is especially important when emotions are running high. Remember to stop and breathe. And don't be afraid to do so more than once. It's amazing how much clarity arises in stressful situations when we just pause and allow our bodies to help clear our minds. If you implement these 3 simple practices, they will soon become habits. You'll be amazed how quickly your ego calms down, especially when it comes to negativity and self-criticism. I've put these 3 simple practices in the description section below. Remember, awareness is the quieting influence you have on your ego. Final thought. Your ego was created by you over your lifetime so far. You are the one who let all those thoughts in the first place. They showed up and you believed them. And so they moved in and took root. Now, every now and then, your ego pulls them out and shows them to you. So you are the fish you're trying to catch. The question is, are you ready to see what your ego is throwing back at you? Take back the power you gave it and reawaken to your true self? Let me hear from you in the comments section below. And if you haven't already done so, plug into our free daily email, also in the description below. And I'll see you next time.